Anyway, basically what we're going to be talking about today is how to take a vacation. The reason that this is relevant for me is I just took a 2-week vacation, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I did it, how some of the research that I've done, and I've actually worked with some business coaches on this similar concept as well. And I'll tell you why it's important. It's important for your own personal health and whatnot, but we'll get to some of the other reasons why they're important. So if you're looking at your handouts that I've provided you, basically what we're going to cover today is the basics of how to set up gatekeeping procedures, conquering the fear of delegating. It's always a really big deal. Planning for the vacation, and how to enjoy the vacation. So if y'all go on to the next sheet, you'll see that there's the average world vacation. This is for all employees, so this is not just for U.S. Business owners or whatnot. But you can see Italy takes over a month off, and so does France. I don't know when they ever work, quite frankly, but they take 42 and 37 days respectively. Britain 28. Canada 26, Japan 25. The U.S. is at a staggeringly small 13 days per year. Basically, if you added up all of the holidays and tacked on about 50% extra days, that's the days that most people take in vacation. 50% of small business owners in the United States, however, will only take off major holidays. July 4th, Christmas, sometimes New Year's. This is something that typically comes up. Or they won't take off any days at all. They will work through holidays. They'll work through children's birthdays. They'll work through everything. 66% will only take 1 week off all summer long. So that's July 4th, even if it falls on a Wednesday. They're not going to take the whole week off. They might take just the day. More than 40% of entrepreneurs will stay in touch with the office while they're on vacation, and 29% will maintain contact every single day. Now, the reason that these are risks is there's actual health risks to this. It causes higher stress. It can actually be documented that this results in higher stress. It does provide burnout. One of the biggest problems why most businesses fail in the first 5 years is not always because they're not making money. It's typically because the business owners give up. They get burned out. They're working all the time. They don't see the light of day, and then they just get burned out and they move on. Results in sleeplessness. If you can't actually gain the separation, there's a psychological issue, and there's some psychologists that have talked about it. If you don't learn how to check out of your own business, then you're going to find it difficult to take a vacation, which causes sleeplessness, restlessness, and other stress-induced problems. It obviously impedes your relationships at home. If you're not spending time with your family and your friends, you're not going to be able to nurture those relationships. It also results in feelings of guilt and stress. So what it can also find is anybody that's come back after a vacation to work knows that the two most productive days that you've ever had are the day before and the day after vacation. The day before because you want to get everything done and out of the way, and the day after because you're rejuvenated. You actually have, the problem is that most of the time you're catching up from the work that you should have been doing while you were over vacation. So that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about. It also bleeds out. If you're a business owner, then it's not just going to affect you. It's going to affect your employees. It results in higher turnover for your employees. When they see that you're stressed, they know that you're not taking vacation, so they feel obligated to not take vacations. I've personally spoken to people that are employees in companies, and they say, well, my boss never takes off. I have to be there. Well, what happens is your employees are going to burn out because they don't have the same motivation that you do. So, take a vacation. Why take a vacation? First off, it gives you the chance to de-stress. Gives you that opportunity to say, okay, this is the separation that I need. Let's get back to what I enjoy doing so that I can get back and do the work, the stuff that I don't necessarily enjoy doing. Gives you perspective. It gives you priorities in your life. When you're working in your business all day long, it's difficult to say, to remember that the reason that you're doing this is typically because of your kids, because of your wife, because of your family and your friends. And it gives you that perspective. It also gives you creativity. When you've gotten away from the business a little bit, you can come back and say, you know what, I have been doing this the same way for the last 6 months. I've been doing it wrong the entire time. So it gives you the ability to look back and get a perspective not only personally, but also in your business. And then finally, it gives you motivation. Like I said previously, the most productive days that you have are the day before and the day after, because when you get back, you're refreshed, you're ready to go, and that lasts until Wednesday typically. So, but it does give you that motivation over a longer term. So, anyway, we'll first talk about setting up basic gateway procedures. The two general rules whenever you're dealing with employees, whether these are your own full-time employees, whether they're part-time employees, or whether they are an associate, a VA, a virtual assistant, or something like that, boils down to two things: clarifying your expectations and empowering them to do their job. People money is one of the worst motivation pieces in a job. Employees are not motivated by money. They are motivated by fulfilling a purpose within a machine. Even if it is a machine, they know where they fit in that machine, and they know that that's their place. So empowering somebody to know that this is your job. I'm going to be counting on you to do this. I'm not going to micromanage you, but this is what I expect, and empowering them to be able to fulfill those expectations. So setting up, here's how we get the nitty-gritty of setting up a gatekeeping procedure. My preferred gatekeeping procedure is a 3-level procedure. First off, you have to have that initial point of contact. You have to have somebody that is, if you have an existing client or a new client, that there is some touch point. There are ways to cheat this. You can have an auto attendant. I'll use phones because they're a fantastic example. You can have an auto attendant. That's a very inexpensive way to have an initial point of contact. There's nothing frustrating than calling into a business and hearing the phone ring. If nobody picks up, you've lost a potential customer, and you've lost sometimes even a potential or an existing customer. There's a way to cheat that, like I said, with having a auto attendant, which is just an automated dial in, press 1 to do this, 1 to do this. Typically, the better way to do it is to have a receptionist. Now, we've gone in the world of technology away from receptionists, but probably because it ends up being expensive in the long run just to have somebody that's that point of contact. But there are some other alternatives that are out there, and I'll show. Callruby.com and Regis. Both of these are companies that provide phone answering services. And all they do, Callruby's cheapest option is about $200 a month. So you don't have to pay taxes on that. You don't have to provide benefits to a receptionist. They're incredibly friendly. I personally use them. They're fantastic. They're very, very nice. When you call in, they know about your company. They can answer some brief questions, and they can do some light lifting. However, this is the initial point of contact. This is light lifting. This is a position that you don't necessarily want to fill with somebody that's heavy lifting, because somebody that you would pay for some heavier lifting and you're willing to pay a little bit extra, you don't want them caught up answering phones. You might have that secretary or that office manager that is perfect, that they are incredibly nice when they answer the phones. They do Excel sheets, and they look beautiful, and everything computes and works down at the bottom, and they do everything that you work. But if they spend, on average, about 20 minutes per hour answering the phone, say it's 4 phone calls for 5 minutes, every single time that you answer the phone, it causes a break in your concentration. They've done studies on this. It causes a break in your concentration where it takes you 15 minutes to gear up into whatever you're talking about. Then once you get out of it, it takes you 15 minutes to get back into what you were talking about. So if you have somebody that's a mission-critical person, somebody that knows what they're doing, that can help out, and somebody calls in and says, hey, I had this question about this one thing, it's going to take them about a quarter of an hour to gear up in order to think about that. So if they're answering the question in 5 minutes, they're probably not answering it well. Then once they hang up the phone, it's going to take them another 15 minutes in order to get back into it. By that time, the next phone call has already come back in. So even though that one person may be very good at doing one or the other task, putting both of the tasks on her or on that person means that nothing is going to get done. So that's the reason I say that you have to have that second tier. You have to have that second tier of a hierarchy. And there's several things that you can do. This can be an employee. It can even be a virtual assistant. There's a lot of virtual assistant opportunities that have sprung up. Everything from light lifting, like having an outsourced VA in India. They're not going to know a lot about your business, but they can perform some pretty standard tasks, up to having somebody that's a dedicated VA, where you have a virtual assistant that has potentially 6 clients or so that he or she may work with. And these individuals can really help out, and they're not somebody that you're going to have on full time. Now, you're going to want to hire somebody full time eventually to fill one of these positions, because the solo business owner model is not a very good one, and we'll talk about why that's important. But there's several different ways that you can do this. There's another option too, that this happens a lot in professional services like lawyers. If I am going to be out of town for 30 days, what I typically do, or I have not had the opportunity to do 30 days yet, but what I would do, and what other associates of mine have done, has said, I am going to be out of town for 30 days. I need somebody to cover my dockets. Technically, they've empowered a competitor to do their work for them. But that's a very reasonable, very common situation that crops up. And there's a little bit of a quid pro quo there. Is, okay, well, I'm going to cover this for you because I'm probably going to want to go out of town too, and I need somebody to cover my docket. So that happens a lot in attorneys. It happens in accountants. It happens in a lot of other industries where you say, hey, listen, I know we're technically competitors, but let's have this little soft area where we're not really going to make a big deal about this, and then we'll go from there. Next thing is external. We've set up the internal processes in order to make this work. What do we do what do we do externally? And it's one of the biggest things is to set expectations. Consistently, when you look at consumer surveys, one of the big things that is never listed on the surveys is the ability to get upper level management. Nobody cares. Your availability as a business owner, as even a professional, is not a selling point. Typically, somebody wants to be able to call in, be able to get a quick answer, or at least get on the feed. If you're a professional, that means that somebody wants a phone call, they want a phone call back. If you're in a more service-related industry, that means they want to get somebody that knows at least something that's going on. But they don't necessarily want the owner of the company. So your ability to be available as a business owner is not important to most people. But that's something that a lot of business owners pride themselves on. When you call, I'm the guy that you get. I don't care if I get you. I want somebody that can answer my question. And if you've got to gear off for 15 minutes so that you can answer my question because you're dealing with some high-level stuff, then I'm not really getting served as a customer. So, anyway. And as we've already talked about, that 15-minute, that loss of productivity, 15 minutes for a business owner can be incredibly costly. 15 minutes for a medium-wage employee is much different, especially when that's their job. You also have to set an external expectation where you're going to fight back against this do-it-now expectation. There has been a concept in the last couple of years that if you send an email, you should deserve an email response in the next hour. This is increasingly becoming common. I get email exchanges where I will email somebody and almost instantaneously I have an email response. If you want somebody to expect an immediate response, foster the idea that they have to call you. If it is an emergency, it's not treated by email. This is a basic concept that is developed in the last few years, but we've gotten into it that we check email constantly. We check email before we go to bed. We check email when the first thing that we get up in the morning. So the very first thing that you got to do is batch email. I recommend checking email twice per day, once at lunch, once at the end of the day. If you check email at the first of the day, you're going to add things to your checklist, and you're not going to get to mission critical stuff. Get the heavy lifting out of the way at the very beginning of the day. Batch email at lunch. Batch email at the end of the day. Secondly, batch phone calls. If you call me, you're not going to get me most times. I batch phone calls. I check my email and I return phone calls at lunch or at 1 o'clock. And I batch emails and phone calls and return them at 4 o'clock. I have set up an expectation that when you call in, you're not necessarily going to get me. That's fine. Most of the things that I deal with aren't emergencies. If you do have a business where emergency is involved, empower somebody that that's their job. Your job is to handle so-called customer emergencies. Next, we'll go to the next page. We just talked about emergencies. Does anybody have a gatekeeping procedure, something written down, or even something that's soft gateway? Do you have a definition of what an emergency is? This is one of, I don't know any statistics, but anecdotally I can say that most people that have some kind of gateway procedure have no definition of what an emergency is. When you have an emergency, this is what an emergency is not. A typical customer is disappointed with their work. That is not an emergency. A bad customer is pissed as hell. And the definition of a bad customer is somebody that spends more time than they make you. If they're upset, that is not an emergency. If your delegate does not know what to do, that is not an emergency. These are emergencies. Your company is actively hurting or imminently going to hurt somebody. You have a product that is causing babies to scar and burn, or you have something where you have an 18-wheeler that is running loose down the interstate. That is an emergency. An emergency is you have a family member that is sick or dying. That is an emergency. If your kid comes home sick, that is an emergency. If your father is on his deathbed, that is an emergency. Also, if you have a very close family member in jail, that is also an emergency. I say very close family member because that uncle that everybody thinks about, if he shows up in jail, then that's not really an emergency. Next, I want to talk about conquering the fear of delegating. This is a situation that I run into a lot with the clients that I work with. Most of my clients start as single-owner businesses. They are the single owner, they're the single and full-time employee, and they become so used to, and I'm guilty of this myself, it becomes so easy to run the business yourself, it becomes scary to empower somebody else, because I know the way that I like it. I know how I like my little headers in Excel. Every little nitpicky thing that doesn't matter, it becomes difficult to empower somebody else to do that, to delegate for it. So conquering the fear of delegating is one of the biggest issues that a lot of people run into. So a lot of people say, well, I can't delegate because I don't have an employee. One of the most important reasons, and the reason why I focus on vacation as to why it's so important, is because most people want to sell a business. They don't want to work for 30 years and then at the end of the day say, hey, guess what? Your pension plan, whatever equity you thought in your business, is completely worthless. If you can't sell your business is legitimately worthless. And that sounds really bad, but it's true. If you do not have the ability to run your business without you, it cannot be sold. So if your business cannot run for 10 days while you take a vacation, your business is not crossing the first step in order to be able to be sold. So the very first and easiest way to find out whether or not your business can be sold is to step away from your business and see what breaks, because then you'll know what to fix. But if you wait after working for 20 years on your business and you never take more than a long weekend on a vacation, your business is not in a position to sell because you've never actually tested it to run without you. So here's how to do this. Here's an easy way to do this. For anybody that's ever had just their own business, no employees, no anything, go to mytasker.com. This is a company that I trained myself how to delegate. They have a $40 a month personal option. All they do is do little grunt personal stuff for you. Research shoes, briefcases, make doctor's appointments. That's $40 a month for 30 tasks that range about 10 to 15 minutes. They also have a $120 a month option that gives you 10 hours of business tasks. That's their lowest business option. So you get a virtual assistant that'll work for you for 10 hours. Give them something simple. Hey, I got a doctor's appointment. It's not on a good day. Call to reschedule. Here's my calendar. Got this really cool briefcase I like. Go check it out. Find the cheapest place I can go find it.
They actually go and pick it up for you?
Well, they can even order it for you.
They're ordered, but they won't.
Well, my tasker is based in India, but I actually had them find my wife's wedding present. That was I tested several different companies, and I said, "I'm looking for this. Find it," and they actually found it for me. So that's how they actually won my business. Was they got my wife's wedding present. But another easy thing to do is, hey, it's my wife's birthday in 9 months. I will forget. Send flowers on May 23rd and get that taken care of. So, build on those tasks until you get comfortable doing them. So now it's nothing for me to be like, hey, schedule this. And I gave them today. I have confidential information that I deal with. There's confidentiality clauses in all of these VAs. The reason I recommend using a VA company to start out is if you're worried about giving somebody your credit card. These are legitimate companies, so that if somebody goes and runs up a bunch of money on your credit card, they refund it. There's a clause in that contract that says that if any unauthorized expenditures are taken out, we'll cover those, instead of just using some random guy in Portland who might just disappear. So anyway, but build up until you get comfortable. So I have confidential information that I deal with on a pretty consistent basis, and I was involved in litigation, and I needed all of these invoices broken down into an Excel sheet. So I sent them over there, 3 hours worth of work. It's fantastic. I got everything that I needed in an Excel sheet. That saved me hours of my time. So building up to the actual vacation, 6 months out, you've got to start implementing your gatekeeping procedures. Test them, see how they work, see what works. You're going to find individual things that work for you and don't work for you. It's fine. Test them out. You have 6 months to refine them. Also, start setting expectations. This is good to do with any employee from the start. This is what I expect from you. Sit down and have an honest conversation over coffee. I don't recommend lunch. It's too long. Coffee is a good time to say, hey, this is what I expect from you. This is what I expect from this position. Somebody that succeeds in this position is going to do this. Somebody that does not succeed in this position is going to do this. This is what I'm expecting from you. I'm expecting to empower you. I want you to do this. I want you to run with it. If I miss something, I want you to cover it. That kind of situation. 3 months out, start training yourself to delegate. If you haven't done it already, train yourself to delegate. It'll take only about a few weeks for you to figure out how to do this kind of stuff. But if you've never done it, or if it's been a while since you've done it, training yourself to delegate helps. Also, train your delegate. This is the specific stuff that I need. I've already told you my general expectations, but specifically this is what I expect. And start training them on how to do the things that you expect them to do. 3 weeks out, inform your very good routine customers that you will be out of town. If you have somebody that pretty consistently contacts you, hey, I need this done, and they contact you on your cell phone or something like that, let them know, hey, just let you know, I'm going to be out of town. You need to contact this person. This is a fantastic opportunity for those folks that do have your cell phone numbers that call you instead of actually sending you an email or doing anything. It's a great way to shove them off on somebody else. Is, hey, I'm going to be out of town. You need to talk to this person, and quite frankly, I'm going to give them everything. They're going to be your go-to contact person. Do this 3 weeks out. Sets the expectation. They understand what they're going to get into. Do not make a general announcement. Do not tell people that you're going to be out of town, because you want to see what breaks. You want typical problems that you have coming in. You don't want people delaying their problems until they know that you get back in town. So don't make a general announcement that you're going to be out of town, because you want to test little things. Things are going to break. I promise you, they're not going to be nearly as big as you think they are. Tell your delegates, I am going to be out of town this month, at the end of the month or whatever it is. Tell them what you expect while you're gone. Ask them what they need from you so that they can do their job. This is a good way to get any kind of information from an employee, asking them what they expect, what they need, because you'll get a very different perspective on it. 5 days before, remind your delegates that you'll be out of town. Now, you've already reminded them 2 weeks ago, but our attention spans are short. Remind your delegates of what you expect while you're gone. Don't go into specifics. They've already been told. If they haven't gotten the memo yet, then it's too late. Day before, remind your delegates, once again, I will not be here tomorrow. Tell them what the definition of an emergency is. Only call me if a family member is sick or dying, a very close family member is in jail, or our products are about to hurt somebody. Assure your delegates that I don't know is an acceptable answer. It is perfectly okay for your delegate to come out and say, I don't know this question. I'll send it up to the guy that knows. We'll get back to you. I don't know is a perfectly acceptable answer. Set your autoresponder on your emails. Set your autoresponder on voicemail. How to enjoy your vacation. This is difficult. This is actually the hard part for business owners. Very first thing, disconnect. For at least 24 hours of a multiple day vacation, do not check email. Do not answer phone calls from the office. Do not do anything work related. I generally recommend this throughout the entire vacation, but at least through the first 24 hours. Do not do anything work related. That means do not do anything work related. That means don't read business books. Don't read business articles. Don't listen to books on tape. Don't listen to podcasts. That is not vacation. That is work. Relax. Read for pleasure. Reading for pleasure is one of the easiest things that you can do. It's also the cheapest way to disconnect. Spend quality, non-distracted time with your loved ones. That means non-distracted. Don't be texting, checking your email. My personal way of checking out is watching a sunset in full with no distractions, except with a loved one or a glass of wine. It takes a half hour to watch a full sunset. If you can't get through that without having any distractions, you've got a serious problem. If you absolutely, positively, simply cannot avoid doing work, you must do these following. Schedule work periods. No more than one time a day, no more than 1 hour at a time, and no later than 10:30 in the morning. If you get later into the day, you're going to be expecting to work. You're not actually going to be paying attention to your family and your friends. If you're going to spend more than an hour, that bleeds fast. If you're going to do it more than one time a day, you're never actually checking out. Notify those in your company that I will be working from 9 until 10. I may get done before, but if I go to 10, cut me off. Enforce the boundaries. That 10 o'clock period, if you go to 10:05, $5 jar for every 10 minutes that you're over. $5 jar, if you work for more than this period of time, you put $5 in the jar. That money goes towards something that you will do with your family or friends. That's dinner, that's going to the water park, it's doing something like that. If you absolutely just come up with something and you have to do it, put on what I call a passive checklist. Have a written checklist, not connected to the internet. I need to do this. Write it down, put it somewhere that you won't look at until you get back home. It will be enough of a reminder. If you check anything off of that list, $5 in the jar. It's a passive checklist. It's not supposed to be stuff that you're doing during your vacation. It's stuff that you do when you get back home. If you can get through these, if you can get through a 30-day vacation, your business can sell. When I work with my clients, the very first thing that we do is we take a long vacation. We see what breaks. The big issues is when you take a vacation, it's not just what breaks. Is my company making money while I am away? Is my company not losing money while I am away? And have any major issues cropped up in the management of my company while I've been away? Your first test is a long weekend, 4-day weekend, during work hours, not like a holiday extended weekend. A 14-day weekend, or 14-day vacation, and then a 30-day. If you can take a 30-day vacation, then your business can sell. If your business is not making money and it's not falling apart in that meantime, if it manages to get through that entire 30-day period, making money, not losing money, and there's no major management issues, then you can effectively sell your business. You can sell your business at any time, but your valuation is going to be much, much better. So anyway, that's how to take a vacation and why it's important. So y'all have any questions?